In an effort to address the wrongs of the past, Hollywood recreated the same racist system they'd already had in place. How ironic. I saw this article from The Hollywood Reporter about Kumail Nanjiani and his complaint that no one will cast him as a villain. According to him, in Hollywood's efforts to address the racist policy of not hiring non-white actors for lead roles and instead primarily casting them as bad guys, Hollywood now will only hire non-white actors for good guy roles, even when the actors want to play the bad guys. Nanjiani is currently starring in Welcome to Chippendales, which is about the guy who created the Chippendales group and how he later got tied to a murder case. Nanjiani said that had it not been based on a true story, he doesn't think he would have gotten the role. He thinks it would have gone to a white actor instead. As he says, quote, "I think that Hollywood now, even though they're trying to be more diverse, is still weird. Yeah, it is still weird because they're still typecasting. You could say that it's a plus that they're not just casting minority actors as villains, henchmen, cannon fodder, and extras, but it's still shoving them into a limited set of roles, and it's still just as frustrating because many of the great roles are the antagonist roles. But as Nanjiani says, the problem with good intentions is that they can lead to misguided solutions. Hollywood doesn't want to send a bad message by making the bad guy a brown guy, so they effectively cut out half the potential roles for minority actors. And as we see, this isn't limited to some fantasy or sci-fi story. This applies to dramas, thrillers, horror films, and so on. You have all these talented actors who don't get a chance to explore their range out of some ridiculous fear that showing some non-white actor being bad will make people think all black, brown, yellow, and khaki people are evil. Sure, there are some people who'll think that, but they're probably thinking that already. And that shouldn't be the reason for not casting actors in certain roles. In the past, yes, there have been stereotypes about minorities in films. You could just avoid those stereotypes when writing scripts, and you've solved the problem. You can also just cast more minority actors in other roles, balancing out instances of casting them as villains. This isn't hard to do. All you need to do is treat them like you treat white actors. This is a problem with injecting identity politics into entertainment. In your effort to try to please a bunch of keyboard jockeys on social media, you've ironically recreated the old Hollywood caste system, but this time inverted it. As Nanjiani says, quote, he pointed to actor Sebastian Stan, who plays Marvel superhero The Winter Soldier, as well as a cannibal in the 2022 movie Fresh. He does these big Marvel movies, and then he'll play a psychopath, Nanjiani says. I was told that was going to be hard because people don't want to cast non-white people as bad guys. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't brown people cast as villains. We've seen this with the Ant-Man film, The Kenobi Show, and a couple of others. The one recurring element in most of those, however, is that the villain turns out to not really be that bad, or at least that's what the audience is meant to think. The best example of this is Killmonger from Black Panther. He's basically a black version of Kanye's best friend, but he gets a pass as understandable and justified because he's black. When you do see a non-white villain who's outright evil, the rest of the cast is usually the same race. There is this explicit attempt to avoid having white heroes with truly evil non-white villains. Film critics and journalists have denied this was happening even though we all watch movies and TV shows and could see it happen in real time. Claiming this trend doesn't exist is like walking outside at noon on a cloudless day and claiming you can't see the sun. Look up, not at the thing, just in its general direction. You can't miss it. You can't have an industry where you're only giving certain roles to minorities. It doesn't matter that it's positive roles now or that you're trying to compensate for past racism. You're still being racist. Nanjiani said, quote, I've never gotten the opportunity to play a character like this, who has such a big arc and a descent into darkness. I've always wanted to play the bad guy. I don't mean just guys who are kind of shitty. I mean a bad guy. Let the man play a villain, an irredeemable bad guy like he wants. Let him have a go. See if he's any good at it, you never know. That might be his Heath Ledger moment. Or it could be his Jamie Foxx in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 moment. Let's fuck around and find out. Nobody's gonna think Indian people are bad people just because Nanjiani played a bad guy. That's what the restaurants are for. Just treat people the same way, not like they're special, and you'll solve this problem. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.